Hello everyone. Could I ask for everyone that's able to please stand together as our piper begins our service? Our State and Deputy State Protocol Officers will now address the coffin. Thank you, everyone. You can please be seated. Before we do commence proceedings, can I just do one last little housekeeping check, if that's okay? If I can just ask us all just to do one last check on our phones, if that's all right, just to make sure that they're at least switched to silent. Better still, if they're able to be switched off altogether, that just helps us avoid any unnecessary interruptions or any embarrassments, and it helps us all be present as well, which I think is important. Thank you so much. I appreciate your understanding. My name is Jason, and I've been given what is an absolute honour today on behalf of the family to conduct what is a celebration of life in honour of a very, very special man, Morgan James Spruce. To all the family here today, our heartfelt condolences with you all on what is a day that isn't easy. Our grief is something we all navigate individually. It's something very personal. It doesn't have a set timeline or a prescription. It kind of often feels like it's just waiting to trip us up at the worst possible moments. But there's something that does help. It's love. It's expressed exactly the way that you've done here today, and thank you for being here in an overwhelming display of your support and love of the family and of Morgan here today. It's also shared in all of the wonderful tributes that are going to be given in Morgan's honour today. Family would like to acknowledge Morgan's extended family and friends who are here today, those both in the room and those who are watching via live stream. Thank you so much for being with us and for your support here today. Also representatives from New South Wales Police, New South Wales SES, New South Wales Royal Fire Service, colleagues from Lake Macquarie City Council, colleagues from other councils across New South Wales, and members of IPWEA, New South Wales and ACT. Thank you for being here and your support today. We're here to honour a good man, a man who left what was his own very special, very loving and very loyal mark on 41 love-filled years of precious memories that he created over his life that wasn't as long as any of us would have wanted, but a life that impacted, as we see here today, many, many people's lives. Although there's sadness, and it's important that we take an opportunity to grieve and to farewell, it's important that today is a celebration of Morgan's life, that he's remembered with all the fondness and all the gratitude for the wonderful way that he lived his life, and most importantly, the impact that he's left on each and every one of your lives. Morgan's life did impact many people, but none more than his family, who he adored. And it's family on a day like today that are definitely the ones who will carry what is the deepest sense of grief and of loss, but it's also true. It's family like no one else that share in the most beautiful, intimate, and rich way all of the special memories that represent Morgan's life. I'm going to invite family to come and bring their own special tributes to Morgan. And first I'm going to invite Shani to come and bring her special tributes. Thank you, Shani.
Thank you all for coming today to celebrate the life of my remarkable brother Morgan. I want to take this opportunity to share a few stories about him, who he was, and the impact that he had on us, on our lives. To me, Morgan was many things: a leader, a protector, a bit of a dag. But first and foremost, he was my brother, and I was lucky enough to call him one of my closest friends. Morgan was born in May 1984 to Paul and Donna. From the very beginning, he made quite an impression. First, as a colicky baby who kept mum and dad up all night, and then not long after, as the easiest, happiest, and steady child that they could have hoped for, at least compared to the sisters that followed. He grew up in Ryhope and attended a Wobber public school, becoming school captain in Year 6. Even as a kid, Morgan was kind, protective, and quietly responsible, qualities he carried with him his entire life. Now, despite giving me a black eye and a cracked head and a chipped arm bone, he really was the most wonderful brother and truly my childhood best friend. We built countless Lego sets together, went camping, just the two of us, and spent endless summer afternoons in the pool. Morgan went on to attend Macquarie College, where he thrived, and he became prefect in his senior years and made many lifelong friends, some whom are here today. Everyone who knew Morgan back then would remember that he was always a straight-laced and serious student. He never skipped class, he never gave teachers any grief, and he always followed the rules, and he made sure everyone else followed them too. This includes one time where he seriously reprimanded one of my friends for eating an apple in the food-free locker room, which really wasn't cool, Morgan. But what I remember most of those years just wasn't how responsible he was, but it's how dependable he was. There's one moment that will stay with me forever. One winter afternoon, we decided to ride home from school to Ryhope, over 20 kilometres, up and down hills, with a true lack of appreciation of how long it would take. Before we knew it, the sun had set, and we were riding in complete darkness. No street lights, it was on rural roads, and we didn't have any mobile phones back then. I remember being tired and a little bit scared, but Morgan wasn't. He was calm, he was steady, and he was completely certain that we'd be okay. He kept encouraging me and reassuring me and guiding us forward, and eventually we made it home. But from that day on, I never hesitated to follow Morgan into the darkness, whether literally or metaphorically. He showed me he was someone that I could trust completely. He was a safe set of hands, a caring soul, and a true leader. Morgan set a high standard for us siblings to follow, and we strive to live up to those expectations that he had set. Morgan always believed in us and quietly championed us for us to achieve. One of the clearest examples of this was when he supported Yolanda in pursuing her dreams to become a commercial pilot. He didn't just believe in her, he backed it with action and finances, helping her make her dream a reality. That was Morgan, generous, selfless, and completely invested in the people that he loved. After school, Morgan studied civil engineering at the University of Newcastle, graduating in 2007. It was the start of many academic and engineering qualifications that he attained over his lifetime, and the start of a career that was defined by discipline, progression, and a real sense of service. That sense of service was a reoccurring theme in his life. Through his time at local council, his volunteer work with the SES and RFS, and eventually his decision to join the New South Wales Police Force. One of the proudest moments for our family was his graduation from the academy in Goulburn in August 2017. I remember that day for being absolutely freezing. We still maintain that Goulburn is the coldest place on earth. But our hearts were so warmed with pride that day, seeing Morgan in his uniform, marching out, once again ready to serve his community in this new career. I remember him being in the front row of the cadets with Margaret Beasley inspecting the class. No doubt noticing Morgan's SES service medal, she stopped to speak to him, only ending the conversation when she got the hurry along from her aide de camp for talking to Morgan for too long. Who knew Morgan was such a have-a-chat? From when Morgan initially applied for the force until he was a fully fledged member, much had changed for him, mainly finding the love of his life, Emma. With new priorities and a hope of a family in the future in mind, Morgan, with the support of Emma, decided to put love and family first, stepping away from the force and back into the world of engineering. A hard decision, but one I know he never regretted. This new chapter of his life brought him the greatest happiness and purpose as a husband and a father. He still had such a twinkle in his eye when he would talk about Emma, even after all those years together. And you could just feel the pride and absolute joy that he exuded when he was just being dad with Darcy and Harvey. These are the moments that I will treasure when I think now of Morgan. It's hard to describe Morgan in just a few words, but if I had to, I would say dutiful, honest, kind, a leader, a family man, and completely unapologetically himself. We called him a dag often, but really he was just himself. He never followed trends, never changed himself to fit in, and never pretended to be anything other than exactly who he was, but still a dag. Whether it was always insisting on us listening to AM radio when he drove us to school, or writing his own playthrough guide to Pokemon Blue, or researching the full roles and responsibilities of being a godfather before agreeing to it. It wasn't a job interview, Morgan, jeez. Or the way he used to organise his phone contacts with individual ringtones. It might not come as a surprise, but he bestowed the love of his life, Emma, with the ultra-romantic ABC News ringtone. Yes, that was Morgan's daggy way of saying how much Emma meant to him. He was my daggy big brother, but God, I loved him for it. On top of all this, he had a great sense of humour. For all his seriousness, he had a cheeky side. He loved a good joke, even if it was at his expense, which was quite often. Like the time us sisters celebrated his police graduation with a very inappropriately themed donut platter. Or how we never missed an opportunity to bring up the infamous chocolate eclair incident. Morgan would be just thrilled that I've mentioned this not only at his wedding, but now here today. But don't worry, he gave as good as he got too. There was a time that he posted Yolanda a broom telling her she could fly herself home for Christmas. It was such a classic Morgan. Despite all these achievements, he stayed humble, grounded, and generous in spirit. Morgan, words cannot possibly do justice to the insurmountable impact you've had on our lives in such a short time. As a son, as a brother, as a husband, a father, a friend, but also to a lot of people in the wider community. Brother, you will be so dearly missed. We are so proud of the life that you have lived and truly appreciate the love, light, and the laughter that you've brought into our world. I know we shall meet again one day, but until then, I will save the last chocolate eclair for you. Thank you.
Shani, well done. Thank you for sharing those wonderful memories with us all. I'm going to invite Emma to come now, and she's going to bring her own special tribute.
Oh, great, thank you. Let's have a little sip of water, sorry. Thank you for all being here today, for Morgan, for myself and our boys. It is very hard to find the words for someone who meant everything to you. Morgan was never the loudest person in the room. He did not need to be. He had a way of making himself felt in all the ways that mattered most. He was steady, calm, kind, cheeky, thoughtful and deeply loving. He was the sort of person whose presence made life feel safer, warmer and better. Morgan came into my life in 2014, and from very early on, there was something about him that felt different. He was thoughtful in a way that stood out straight away. One of the first memories that always springs to mind is him coming to his first dinner with my parents. He arrived in a suit, carrying a bunch of flowers and 2 bottles of wine, one of them specifically as a gift for my parents. That was Morgan. He cared about doing things properly. He cared about people feeling respected. He cared about making a good impression, not for show, but because that's just who he was. And that same thoughtfulness never stopped. We were engaged in 2016, married in 2017, and welcomed our first son, Darcy, in 2019. We moved into our forever home on Stewart Avenue in 2021, and then welcomed our second son, Harvey, in 2022. When I look at those milestones, I see the shape of our life together. But what I really remember is not just the dates. It's the feeling of building that life with him. It's the quiet certainty that whatever came next, we were doing it together. Morgan was such a romantic in ways that were often quiet and unexpected. He wrote handwritten love letters, surprised me with flowers, and would do thoughtful little things that made me feel so loved. He had this way of making me feel important, like I was the only one who mattered in that moment. And it was not just me, it was the people I loved, my family, my friends, they mattered to him too. He held them in high regard because they were part of my world, and once you were part of his world, you mattered too. That was one of Morgan's greatest qualities. He connected, cared, and provided. He gave so much of himself to the people around him. He worked incredibly hard for our family, and he did it selflessly. He wanted to provide for us, not just financially, but in every sense. He provided security, stability, comfort, and love. He was always thinking about what needed to be done, who needed support, and what would make life easier for the people he loved. He didn't make a fuss about it. He just got on with it. That is where he shone. Morgan was also the calm in every storm. He was reliable, always steady. In a world that can feel rushed and chaotic, he had this grounded quality that made everything feel more manageable. He never overreacted or needed to be the centre of attention. He was a man of few words, but when he spoke, it mattered. And often, he didn't need to say much at all because his actions spoke louder than anything he could have said. And that was especially true when we became parents. Morgan was an incredible father. He loved our boys so deeply, and he showed that love in such a practical, patient, and beautiful way. During both my pregnancies, which were high risk, he was my strength and support. And when both boys needed special care for a short time, after they were born, he was there, calm and steady as ever, holding us together. He had this ability to be strong without being hard and gentle without seeming fragile. He just knew how to be what his family needed. As a dad, he was playful, present, and so attentive. Some of my favourite memories are the simple ones. Slow mornings together, going out to a cafe for a coffee, tea, milkshakes, and maybe a treat. Park play dates, picnic at the park, beach days, sitting around the fire pit at dusk with a beer or a glass of red, and always marshmallows. Those ordinary moments are the ones that become extraordinary when you look back, because they were the fabric of our life, and Morgan was so often the heart of them. He loved building with the boys, especially Lego, and watching how differently each of them approached it. He noticed those things. He noticed who they were becoming, and he took joy in their differences. You can already see so much of him in both boys. Darcy has Morgan's analytical mind, problem-solving ability, sensitivity, charm, and his curiosity. And Harvey has Morgan's adventurous side, his cheeky nature, and his cleverness. Morgan was so proud of them, and I know as they grow, there will be more and more moments where we'll see him in them, in the way they think, the way they smile, the way they take on the world, and the way they love. He loved also sharing things with them, teaching them, guiding them. Teaching the kids to ride their bikes is one of those memories that will stay with me. That was Morgan too, patient and capable, quietly encouraging but never needing praise for it, just being their dad and doing it so well. He had such a warm smile and a slightly cheeky way about him that could catch you off guard. There was always a bit of mischief there, not loud or silly for the sake of it, but just that glint in his eye that reminded you he did not take himself too seriously. He had a dry sense of humour and a quiet confidence that made people feel comfortable around him. I think what made Morgan so special was that he was never trying to be impressive. He simply was. He had integrity, depth, loyalty, and enormous capacity to love without needing recognition for it. And even in his final weeks, that never changed. Even then, Morgan was thinking of others, doing things for people, making sure he spent time with those who mattered most to him, caring for us in the middle of everything he was facing himself. That is something I'll always carry with me. In the hardest chapter of all, he was still Morgan, still thoughtful, still generous, and still loving. He also gave us ways to remember him, and that feels like such a Morgan thing to do. To think ahead, to make sure the people he loved had something to hold on to. He understood even then that love does not stop when a life ends. It changes shape, but it remains. I was honoured to be with Morgan in his final moments. That is something I will hold on to forever. And even then, in the middle of all that heartbreak, he somehow orchestrated for my brothers and his sisters to be there with me within minutes, to comfort me. Even at the very end, he was still looking after me, still making sure I was not alone. And that's who he was, my protector, my support, my person. Since Morgan's passing, we have had little signs that he is around us, a double rainbow, a setting moon. Small, beautiful moments in nature that stop us in our tracks. Maybe some people would call them little coincidences, but to me, they feel like reminders. Little nudges of beauty and presence, and little ways of saying, I'm still with you. And I think that is true. Morgan is still with us. He is in the boys. He is in the stories we will keep telling. He is in the habits and values he gave us, the way we will love and keep going. He is in the quiet strength that he taught us. He is in every memory of laughter, every beach picnic, every coffee and milkshake, every Lego build, every bike ride and every fire pit at dusk. To Darcy and Harvey, your dad adored you. He was so proud of you both. He loved not only who you were, but who you were becoming. I hope as you grow up, you will always know that. I hope you will remember his warmth, steadiness, clever mind, cheeky side, and how safe and loved he made this family feel. I hope you will see him in yourselves and be proud of that. I hope you will know that your dad's love for you was constant, deep, and everlasting. And to Morgan, thank you for coming into my life and making it so much brighter and fuller. Thank you for the love, the laughter, the flowers, the letters, the adventures, the family we built, and the everyday life that I would choose with you again and again. You are my person, my love, and my life. I will miss you forever, but I will love you forever too.
Tell you what, it takes a lot of courage and strength to get up here behind a microphone in front of a room full of people at the best of times. It's made even more difficult when it's your whole world that you're paying your respects to. That was absolutely spectacular, Emma. Well done. We've already been treated to some of Morgan's life in pictures as we've heard some of the family's tributes, but we've got a couple of photo presentations to be able to share with you as well that the family have put together. And it's wonderful because pictures, they can speak a lot louder sometimes than even words, and they represent all of the wonderful memories that Morgan created in this life. So sit back and enjoy this first little walk through Morgan's life in pictures together. Let's look to the screens.
Letters on the sky, burning in your eyes. You look at me, babe, I wanna catch on fire. It's buried in my soul, like California gold. You found the light in me that I couldn't find. So when I'm all choked up but I can't find the words, every time we say goodbye, baby, it hurts. When the sun goes down and the band won't play, I'll always remember us this way. Lovers in the night, poets trying to write. We don't know how to rhyme, but damn, we try. But all I really know, you're where I wanna go. The part of me that's you will never die. So when I'm all choked up and I can't find the words, every time we say goodbye, baby, it hurts. When the sun goes down the whole world fades, I'll always remember us this way. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray. You'll never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away. The other night, dear, as I lay sleeping, I dreamt I held you in my arms. When I awoke, dear, I was mistaken. So I hung my head and cried. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray. Never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away. Sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray. You'll never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away. The other night, dear, as I lay sleeping, I dreamt I held you in my arms. When I awoke, dear, I was mistaken. So I hung my head and cried. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray. Never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away. Sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray. You'll never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away.
Some beautiful memories. Well, everywhere that Morgan's career took him, he made an impression and made some great friendships along the way. We're going to hear a little bit of some of Morgan's career highlights from a number of different areas. First, I'm going to invite Daryl Marshall from the SES to come and bring his tribute. Thank you, Daryl.
Well, it's a privilege to be here today to acknowledge and remember a friend and a colleague, Morgan. During my time as local controller for Lake Macquarie SES, I was fortunate enough to be in the company of many good people. My role was supporting and assisting units in Bullaroo and Cooranbong. It was during a visit to Cooranbong unit one time that I first met Morgan. First impressions are sometimes a good insight into a person's character. Here was a young man who had made me feel as if I had known him for years. As time progressed, we became good friends and passionate members of SES. We trained together and worked together on many different types of incidents and various other activities. Road crash was one thing we did together. Morgan was always at the front, at times leading and ensuring everything was progressing and safety was being observed by all involved. He was at times the person who had the ability to see the whole picture, and as such he would make recommendations on alternative courses of action. Morgan set high standards, not only in his training and his application to the work at hand, but his self-respect, and was something to be admired. His uniform was always clean and ironed, and his equipment was well maintained. Even when he came to work for Macquarie Council, he applied the same high standard, tie and suit every day. I think he may have turned a few young females' heads at times. He looked $1 million. Never heard him swear or say anything about others. He was always respectful to those who were fortunate enough to be in his company. Manners were always high on his list, and everyone got the same treatment. I remember how I tried to get him to call me by my Christian name, but it never happened. It was always Mr. Marshall. During my time as controller, I had a group of young volunteers at the same time as Morgan. I called them my boys. It made me proud to see them all prosper and become worthwhile citizens in their communities. This, as a plus for Morgan, he was one of those volunteers who progressed from a young person to become a man who could be proud of his achievements. There's only one more page. When Morgan came to me and said he was thinking about joining the police force, I thought to myself, it was something I did not expect. I could not imagine Morgan arresting somebody, putting them in jail. It would be more likely to invite them home for dinner. In Morgan's eyes, mostly everyone was a good person and deserved to be treated as such. Morgan was involved in an accident during his time in the SES. He fractured his ankle, and he spent about 6 months in a wheelchair. Once he healed, he was back on the job. That's the man he was. Over the past weeks, I've spoken to many of the volunteers from Bullaroo, who worked and trained alongside Morgan. And as I expected, he was held in high esteem by his peers. They all mentioned at the high level of knowledge and his ability to fit in and became a genuine team member. Morgan served for a period of time as the Deputy Controller for the Cooranbong unit, a position he held with distinction. Morgan had a very defined set of values. His professional approach to everything he did, that was Morgan. Self-respect and respect for all those whom he dealt with, regardless of which level they were. Compassion and empathy were also high on his list. His self-esteem, to be admired. He had high standards in manners and communication skills. He had many awards, 10 years long service award in the SES, same for the Rural Fire Service, National Emergency Service Medal, an SES Commissioner's Commendation, and he's also met the criteria for the National Medal, which I don't think has been issued yet. I am proud to have played a small part in his journey through life. Rest in peace, my friend. You are in good hands. May God bless you.
Thank you, Darryl. I think the world could do with a lot more policemen like Morgan. I'd much rather be invited around for dinner than given a ticket. I'm going to invite Captain Wayne Austin, James Thomas is going to come on behalf of Captain Wayne Austin to share tribute. Thank you, James.
G'day folks, my name is James Thomas. I'm the Deputy Captain and President of Awabba Rural Fire Brigade. So I often talk too much, so I'll try and keep it a bit brief today, which is difficult given the person we're commemorating. So Morgan joined the RFS as a part of Awabba Rural Fire Brigade back in the 25th of November 2009, which was pretty much in the aftermath of the Black Saturday bushfires earlier that year. So this already says something about Morgan. Some people see tragic events on TV and are grateful that they aren't there. Other people are drawn to the opportunity to help those living through some of the worst days of their lives. So Morgan was that person, always looking for a way to help someone. He didn't join for recognition. He's the kind of guy who joined to serve the community and contribute something that would help people. In that same spirit, Morgan took on the role of First Aid Officer for the brigade, barely 12 months out of his probationary period, eager to help out and make a difference. He held that role for several years. Less than 12 months after taking on, or even starting that First Aid Officer's role, he joined the Executive Committee. And that's basically to help try and steer the inner workings of the brigade. And 12 months after that, he was the brigade president. There's a pretty good job description for the President's role within a manual somewhere, and if there's one thing I know about Morgan, he would have read it. He would have read everyone else's job description too, just to make sure everyone was taking care of things right. The President's role is really about keeping the brigade functioning well, keeping things stable and reliable. The biggest challenges are usually people-related, and at that time, the brigade was going through a lot of change. So there was a new generation of firefighters coming through with new ideas and enthusiasm for change, which created friction with the older, more experienced members who've seen what works and seen what doesn't, so both at the brigade and on the fireground. Morgan was a calm head during these times, and that's testament to his character. Operationally, Morgan was involved in some of the biggest fire seasons of recent times, from fires in 2013 through to the Black Summer bushfires in 2019-2020 on the Central Coast and beyond. When he wasn't directly involved in brigade operations, he was always keeping in touch to make sure that he and the brigade were ready if required. Although Morgan didn't join for recognition, he was awarded the New South Wales Premier's Bushfire Emergency Citation on the 31st of July 2020, the National Emergency Medal with Class Bushfires 2019-20, and a Long Service Medal on the 19th of May 2024. So in total, Morgan served over 16 years in the RFS alone, which, as you've seen today, is only a part of his service. Morgan was a fairly quiet person most of the time I knew him, which I think made everyone listen even more closely when he had something to say. I pulled up his qualifications yesterday, mostly because there's always interesting things to find out about people and how they operate. The list covers over 80 nationally recognised qualifications that he achieved during his time in the RFS, which shows the commitment of a quiet achiever who doesn't make a fuss, he just gets things done. Morgan was a highly skilled, highly intelligent man, which would often be the most notable thing for some people, but for me, I'll always remember his kindness, his smile, and the way you could always feel his presence in a room. So, speaking on behalf of Awabba Brigade, we're grateful to have had Morgan as a part of our team. We're blessed to be able to call him mate. So thank you, Morgan. Rest easy. We've got it from here. Cheers.
Thank you, James. I'm going to invite Kevin Cross from Lake Macquarie City Council, who's going to come and bring a tribute. Thank you, Kevin.
I actually got to meet Morgan for the first time a couple of times. We both were at uni at the same time, but we sort of moved in different circles. But one moment I do remember with him there was our final project presentation. We had to do big posters and all sorts of things. But I remember him coming up to me and discussing it with me, and he was generally interested in everything. I think he asked more questions than the actual assessors. So, anything that he could learn from, he wanted to learn it. The second time I got introduced to Morgan was when we both applied for the same position at Lake Macquarie City Council. Neither of us actually got that position, but we were both separately offered different positions. So we ended up in the same team, working together 2 weeks apart from each other. I do remember the first time I saw him at council and they introduced him, this is Morgan, this is Kevin. We both sort of looked up and went, oh yeah, I remember you. So Morgan, in those first few years at council, he had a very straight-laced presentation. He'd always arrive at work, he had his full suit, briefcase in hand. We're pretty sure the only thing that ever came out of that briefcase was his personalised date stamp, finalised stamp that he had. It's a beefy thing. It was like, and he used that to sign off on all his documents. At times in the office, you would also hear the clack, clack, clack of Morgan on his personal mechanical typewriter. I'm pretty sure that he's solely responsible for keeping the typewriter-driven business alive. Also, if you ever needed to know who the current Premier, local government minister or police minister was, Morgan could tell you in a heartbeat. In fact, in his cubicle, he had all these people lined up on the wall where other people would have their pictures of family or whatnot. He had politicians and whatnot on there. But I do recall him being quite annoyed at one point by the revolving door of premiers, meaning that he had to constantly change his photos. Morgan was extremely professional when it came to work, even to the extent of carrying his A1 plans to site meetings slung over his shoulder in a basically bazooka-looking plan holder. He could come across a little bit unapproachable at first, so direct, very focused, but that couldn't have been sort of further from who he really was. He was just... he hadn't allowed himself to be fully seen yet and show us his sort of true version. But at the same time, Morgan was always one who put himself in a position to help others. When winter came along, he would escort staff members down to their car when it got dark. He would stop and help and change flat tyres, still in his full suit. His involvement with the SES and RFS was well known by his workmates. Sometimes a call or alert would come through and Morgan would drop everything that he was doing and rush off for the rescue or emergency. He always had his gear in his car ready to go. But for all that, he still considered work a top priority. There were times where he would rush off to an emergency and then rush back to a site meeting, either still smoky or wet, but be back in his suit and back to being a professional engineer. One of the things that Morgan really excelled at was his meticulous record-taking and filing. This was both a blessing and a curse, because it meant that he was often called upon to be the record-taker of meeting minutes. Minutes were taken in a thorough, robust and professional manner, but he still managed to slip some Morganisms in there. Perhaps realising that very few people would ever go looking for these documents, he would often end emails that contained them with quotes, ranging from famous people in histories all the way to Dr. Zeus, or even a funny meme that he found amusing. It brings me joy to know that Morgan managed to leave hundreds of these little ghosts in the system. During the course of his duties with the SES, Morgan came across many dangers, and at one point an incident occurred in which Morgan had to fall from a roof, leaving him with a shattered ankle and confined to a wheelchair for a time. Many of his colleagues took it upon themselves to visit Morgan during his hospital stay or his recovery. He would graciously accept gifts of books and would read them cover to cover with enthusiasm, and would later share how inspiring it was to help him face these life's challenges. That moment reflected his resilience and his positive outlook, even during difficult times. This is also the point that I consider that our friendship really took off. It was during these visits with Morgan that I got to meet his family for the first time. But Morgan, being Morgan, also used this as an opportunity to field test council's disability access. He was constantly trying to wheel his wheelchair through the corridors of our council offices and up the elevators, and yeah, he got to know it really well. The ankle in question would be filled with so much metal and pins that he would claim that his X-ray made him look like Wolverine. Once he had recovered, most days Morgan and I would often take walks for lunch, mostly down to Boolaroo, where we would discuss everything that was going on, how our lives were going, our shared nerdy pursuits. We found we had a great connection and appreciated being able to use each other as a sounding board and seek advice, understanding and friendship. It was on these walks that you could see that not all of Morgan's impacts at council were in the infrastructure space. Some of them were a lot more culinary. Morgan was a regular at his much-loved Boolaroo bakery. His order was legendary, a chicken schnitzel salad roll with sweet chilli sauce and mayonnaise. Word of this creation spread quickly, first through his team at council and then right across the whole council. Soon enough, no order explanation was needed. You simply asked for the Morgan, and everyone knew what you meant. Morgan would often approach problems and test theories in his own Morgan way. There was one time when Morgan was convinced that he could do better in the staff footy tipping competition through random chance than through making his own predictions. So putting his theory to the test, he put his tips in for the whole comp at the start of the season by sitting at his desk and using dice to roll and determine who the winner was. He was definitely onto something. I believe he came third that year. With Morgan's extensive skill set obtained from his work in the services, when the opportunity arose, he took on the offer of becoming one of our first aid officers in our section of the building. Morgan took on this role with the same fervour and passion that he did with all his roles. He was constantly trying to update and improve procedures, update and check supplies, change the first aid boxes. And when he wasn't satisfied with the tiny sign that indicated where the first aid box was located, he took it upon himself to find the most ridiculously big sign he could possibly and pin it on the wall. It wasn't a small thing. Despite how straight-laced and by the books most people's first impression of Morgan was, he also had a mischievous side to him. And now that the statute of limitations is up, at least to him, I can finally dish some of the dirt on Morgan's shenanigans. One time at council, there was a big staff-focused push called our Voice Survey. As part of this, several clear Perspex suggestion boxes were placed all over the admin building for staff to drop suggestions in. Over the course of about 10 months, Morgan had noticed that these boxes on our floor had only ever been used a couple of times for suggestions. Determined to see the boxes finally used, Morgan took it upon himself to purchase a great many bags of Freddo frogs. And late one evening, when we were some of the only staff still working, he filled the boxes to the brim with Freddos. These boxes were actually locked, so he loaded them in through the slot, one Freddo at a time. The following day, chaos ensued, and Morgan constantly had a smile on his face as he watched people lose their minds over his work. Why would someone do this? What does it mean? How do I get the chocolates out? Some particularly hungry staff tried to MacGyver hooks out of paper clips to fish Freddos from the boxes. And obviously a reward notice was put up in the staff newsletter leading to information regarding the identity of the Freddo dropper. I'm pretty sure it was the chocolates themselves that were the reward. Another memorable moment happened late one evening. Our department's plotter had just been removed from the building due to needing to be replaced, leaving a sizable red ink stain on the carpet where the toner had spilled from the machine at some point in its life. Seeing a unique opportunity, Morgan convinced me to pose as the victim and proceeded to create a chalk outline with masking tape. Staff got a surprise when they turned up to work on Monday discovering the crime scene. With some slightly unfortunate timing, as that day the GM was giving a tour of the admin building with some guests. And the given crime scene was in the main walkway of the second floor. So not everyone saw the funny side. Although Morgan's involvement in was suspected by our supervisor at the time, nothing was ever proven, and it didn't hurt his work prospects, as the following month Morgan was awarded both the Employee of the Month and a Year for his contributions to the Mount Hutton Section 94 investigation. Many of you who knew Morgan could tell when he found something generally funny. He had this particular deep chuckle that came from deep inside him and cut through whatever else was happening nearby. My most memorable moment of this was during one of our lunchtime walks, when a particularly strong wind took my hat and sent it perfectly rolling down the street on its brim and left me tearing after it for several hundred metres. The whole time I could hear Morgan's deep laugh ringing in my ears, and by the time I'd caught it and returned red-faced to him, he was still laughing so hard that he could barely breathe. December 2012 saw the birth of my daughter Charlotte, and also saw Morgan become more fully integrated into my family when I asked him to become one of Charlotte's godparents. I think this shocked Morgan a bit, but I explained to him that he was one of the best examples of a person I knew, and I wanted that sort of influence in my daughter's life. Morgan took to his role as Uncle Morgan with the same passion that he did with everything, writing inspirational letters for Charlotte, doting on her whenever he saw her, and also looking after her dad when it looked like I was surviving on no sleep for months on end. One thing that Morgan and I tried to do every school holidays was take an extended lunch time in loo break and go see whatever kids' movie was showing at Boolaroo Cinema. This activity became slightly less awkward once Charlotte was old enough to attend along with us. 2013 saw the City Projects Department move to the Gatehouse Depot building. It was at this point the higher-ups decided to assign us desks with as much space between them as possible. I don't know why. But still, lunchtimes still involve walks, but just now in a different location. It was 2014 that was the big year for Morgan, and this is where I think he truly broke out of his shell. He had moved into a little cottage at Wonji and decided it was time to get into the dating scene with internet dating. I had to listen and console him through the early disasters, but it wasn't long before he met Emma. Once he had met Emma, everything changed. You couldn't wipe the smile off his face. He'd talk to her like a schoolboy, he'd blush, he'd stumble over his words, and it was like a weight lifting off him where he let his personality out more easily to everyone. It's the curse of the drainage engineer that most of your work is never seen. It all gets buried underground. So in 2015, Morgan jumped at the opportunity to be involved with the Lake Macquarie Transport Interchange at Glendale. Morgan showed, along with his colleagues who worked with him, a real passion and pride in the work that he was undertaking there. His skill sets, including being super organised and taking accurate records, were important contributions to such a large project. And the things that he learnt while working there helped push him towards his later engineering career. However, for a long time, one of Morgan's ambitions was to become a police officer. And after a couple of false starts, in late 2016, using all the long service leave he had built up, he applied and was accepted to the police academy. He had me listed as one of his character references in his application. And honestly, talking up Morgan during that phone call was one of the easiest phone conversations I've ever had to have. Morgan would often excitedly tell stories about the drills and exercises that he was undertaking as part of his training, while also alternatively bitching about how cold he found it in Goulburn. We were all so proud of him when he graduated at the academy. With Morgan's long service leave ending, he found that he had a choice to make. He could either continue with the police force or return to work at council. After much deliberating and with the potential of starting a family of Emma on the horizon, Morgan chose the stability and flexibility offered by his council work and returned to Lake Macquarie Council. "2018 saw Morgan enter the next stage of his life when he married Emma. I was invited to be the best man at his wedding and got to experience Morgan's happiness firsthand. Getting married and then the subsequent birth of his boys, Darcy and Harvey, were without a doubt his proudest and happiest moments. You could hear the love and pride in his voice every time he spoke about them. 2020 saw yet another career move for Morgan when he moved into a role with the asset management department at council. And this is where Morgan truly excelled in work. He had a real passion for asset management, and cared deeply about getting things right and delivering for the community. His humour was still ever present, however, and I am told of one particular presentation he gave to his team where the slide pack he put together had the entire assets department laughing out loud and walking away with a refreshed perspective on how assets were managed at council and justifying the need for attention in the area. Unfortunately for us at LMCC, Morgan chose yet again in 2024 to expand his horizons by taking on a role with the Road and Transport for a 2-year contract. He attacked this new role with the same passion he had always done with any job he had, and he was just about due to return to us. The short time frame left to Morgan from the diagnosis of his illness till his death was brutal. But he kept pushing forward, determined to spend as much time with his loved ones, as well as trying to say goodbye to as many of us as he could, and I know it hurt him that he couldn't get around to them all. Still, even then, his scheduling and organisation came to the fore to get through as much as he did. I'm incredibly grateful for the time we managed to spend together. And the last time I got to see him, I was able to give him a hug and tell him the most important thing. Thank you for being my friend.
Thank you, Kevin. I'm going to invite David Elliott, CEO of IPWEA, who's going to come and bring special tribute and also a medal and flag presentation. Thank you.
Can I start by wishing best wishes to Morgan's family on behalf of the President and the Board and the staff of the Institute of Public Works, where Morgan worked for the last couple of years, and the organisation is in deep mourning for his passing. And having said that, I'm here to announce that it's time to drop the tone a little bit. I think it's time we can reflect on a few of the good things about Morgan's life, the things that have made us laugh, and of course the things that we will remember him for. And when I think of my time with Morgan at the Institute, and certainly reflecting on the presentations and speeches that we've heard this morning, one word comes to mind, and that's everyman. He really was an everyman. He was somebody who was a dad and a husband. He was a firefighter and a rescuer. He was an academic. He was an engineer. He was a servant. And of course, he was beloved by all those who join today at his farewell. And with that in mind, I'm reflecting on my first meetings with Morgan. You see, I came from the military before my 12-year sentence in the state parliament, and I know that in the military, for those veterans that are here will recall, it's a tradition to have a nickname. And I know in the other combat agencies, it's something encouraged as well. And so when I first met Morgan, I thought, well, what are we going to call him? What's his nickname? And of course, the name Spruce was presented to me. And we talked about Spruce Goose, and I was delighted that even though he's under the age of 80, he did know what Spruce Goose was. And we went into, built ourselves into a lather of chatter about the marvel of aeronautical engineering, and how much of a remarkable project of engineering the Spruce Goose was. And I do hope many of you know, because it will what Spruce Goose is, because it will probably have a negative effect on the joke that I'm about to say. For those of you who don't, Spruce Goose is a big plane, the biggest I think that has ever been made. And it was then when Morgan boasted, which was probably one of very few times he did boast about something, but it was about his sister being a pilot. So I've worked out, no, we won't call Morgan Goose. That would be inappropriate. His nickname was Biggles. Now, I hope you all know who Biggles was. If you don't, you're a disgrace. But if you do, you'll know that there's a reason why I will occasionally, unfortunately, reflect on his time with us under the name Biggles. And for Morgan's children, we're probably going to need to get you a couple of editions of Biggles' books, because you'll know that they were written about your dad, about his namesake, an adventurous and a brave man who won a war. And that is certainly something that we can highlight Morgan's service in his community about. But that meeting with him at the Institute, the first time I met him, wasn't the first time I'd ever heard his name. So it didn't start off that well. After our chief engineer, Josh Devitt, had appointed him and told me we're appointing Morgan Spruce to the role as asset engineering manager, I was confronted by some very angry people at Lake Macquarie Council. And they said to me, "We understand you've employed Morgan as your on staff." And I said, "Yes." And I thought, this can go two ways. They're either going to criticise me because he's just been done for some misdemeanour in the council, or of course they're very, very jealous, and I'm delighted to report that it was the latter. So before he'd even started, he'd caused a little bit of consternation in the organisation, but it was certainly a great reflection of the respect that he had. And indeed, if I also reflect on the service to the Institute, particularly myself, that Morgan offered, his ability to write a briefing note, his ability to make complex issues simple to stupid people like me was brilliant. In fact, I reflected on him once that if he'd only worked for me when I was a politician, there'd still be a white car out the front, because I'd be a minister, if not the Premier, if I had somebody that could speak in such plain English and make me understand complex issues. And before any meeting that we had, I knew that Morgan was going to be sending a briefing note, and one that was understandable. And it was a wonder to me that the last briefing note I got from Morgan was what I was allowed to say here at this funeral. And I'm going to honour his wishes, but I will indeed go a little bit off script. Morgan, of course, made a significant contribution to the Institute of Public Works Engineering Australia here in New South Wales. And for those of you who didn't know, his role was with the Asset Maturity Project. Now, I called it black magic because he would mix the data up with traditional management of assets in local government and was able to provide advice and counsel to government, both local and state, in a way that we believe will be groundbreaking. And it is my firm belief that as we reflect on this transition in government, we will probably be able to name a number of the new obligations and responsibilities that we'll see come out of government after him. His rare excellence was something that I loved to observe. And we've heard about his attire, and it did embarrass me on the odd occasion when I turned up looking like I just got out of bed, and there was Morgan, who I knew had just travelled 2 hours by public transport to be in the office. He looked like $1 million. And his commitment, of course, to his job was absolutely awe-inspiring, and something that a work ethic that I do believe will inspire the future generations and hopefully will rub off on his sons. Morgan did ask me to acknowledge those of you who are here and to thank you for the role that you've had in his life, particularly those in local government and the engineering fraternity. He had certainly purpose in what he did. He believed in what he did. He believed in the improvement of lives in our community, and that was not only reflected by his role as an engineer and his professionalism in that regard. But when I look at the service that he gave the emergency fraternity, the emergency services fraternity, you're seeing somebody that had a genuine love for his fellow man. And I quote Churchill, who I quoted a lot in the office when Morgan was there, people who wear uniforms in this regard are twice the citizen. And I think it's safe to say that Morgan was twice the citizen indeed, given that he served under 3 uniforms, and I say this with a great deal of love. He would, in the fraternity, be therefore defined as a cross-dresser. That's not a reflection. It's not a reflection, of course, of his personal life or decisions. It is a fact that he had a number of uniforms. The maturity project that he was working on, of course, will continue. And I think that you'll see that that work will define modernity. And when I consider his qualifications, not only a bachelor's degree but an honours degree, and then of course continued on in a master's degree, it is a tribute to the support that his family gave him, and of course to his own personal intellect, that he was able to walk away with those credentials and continue to serve in the engineering fraternity. I think also when we reflect on his service, there is one word that the counsellors that he served under, the bureaucrats that he worked alongside, the emergency services commanders that he served would all say that if you had to use one word to define him, it would be credibility. He had a wonderful sense of ethics. He had a wonderful sense of commitment, and the fact that he had such love for his fellow man would all go into the mix to say that his credibility and his work ethic was something to be celebrated. He's asked me to talk about his approach to work. Well, because he spoke a different language to me, an engineer and an arts graduate, my favourite time, of course, at his work was when he had an extra 15 minutes before his train left at the end of the work for a glass of red wine. And I've heard already reflections about his laugh. It was contagious. And his ability to laugh at himself and laugh at things that he believed were funny certainly makes us reflect on what was important to Morgan. But I think probably the greatest reflection of his commitment to his fellow man was the fact that he kept going to the end. He kept going to the end. He was still sending me briefing notes in the last weeks of his life. Briefing notes that I still reflect on made a great deal of sense. So to Emma and to the family, to the local government fraternities here, to the emergency services that are represented, it is right and proper that we spend a day here, not just mourning him, but celebrating the love and affection that he brought to everybody's lives, but also reflect on the fact that he is now an inspiration for those that will follow him. Valet Morgan Spruce.
Thank you, David. Well, we're going to spend some time reflecting in the second of our photo tributes to Morgan. Let's all look to the screens.
Lay down your sweet and weary head. Night is falling. You've come to journey's end. Sleep now and dream of the ones who came before. They are calling from across a distant shore. Why do you weep? What are these tears upon your face? Soon you will see. into the world of night, through shadows falling out of memory and time. Don't say we have come now to the end. White shores are calling. You and I will meet again, and you'll be here in my arms, just sleeping. What can you see? On the horizon, why do the white gulls call? Across the sea, a pale moon rises. The ships have come to carry you home, and all will turn to silver glass. A light on the water, gray ships pass into the west. Hope fades into the world of night, through shadows falling out of memory and time. Don't say we have come now to the end. White shores are calling. You and I will meet again, and you'll be here in my arms, just sleeping. What can you see? On the horizon, why do the white gulls call?
Some wonderful memories. Before we conclude our time together here in the chapel and pay our final respects, the family have asked me to invite you all to stay on and join them for some time together and to share some more memories together as well in the function centre just next door, which is where we'll be taking the family. And can I encourage you, if you can make the time to stay today, please do. You don't ever really fully appreciate just how much that time together as family and friends means until you're on the front row on a day like today and you're feeling it the most. So you're all very welcome to stay on and join the family there. I would also like just to draw your attention, the family have requested in lieu of flowers that donations be made today to Bowel Cancer Australia, a cause that was close to Morgan's heart. You will be able to see there's a QR code on the back of your service sheets here today, as well as you can go to the website and donate today in Morgan's honour. But as we do bring our time to a close, can I ask for all those that are able to please stand together just as a symbol of our love and our respect. Can I also ask those who are forming the Guard of Honour to please make your way to the foyer. Morgan, today we honour you for the loving and the special way you've impacted our lives and the legacy of love you've left here among this group of people that are your family and your friends. We're so thankful for all the precious moments that we shared with you in our lives, and we promise together to continue in your legacy of loyalty, of dedication and of love. Even though you're no longer here in body, we'll carry your memory forever in our hearts as we seek to continue on. Whilst today we must say goodbye, we do it with full and grateful hearts, knowing your memory lives on in all those whose lives you've left an indelible mark.